welcome back to RLCS Overtime. We just got done talking about the North American playoffs, and we're about to talk about Europe. If you are liking what you're seeing, definitely stay tuned. We have a nice, exciting announcement for the summer coming up. Guys, how you doing so far?
So far, so good.
So far.
You know, just covering the action.
Could be completely downhill from here, but you know.
It was downhill from the start.
I'm making decisions. I'm making decisions that I don't want to make. A lot of times I don't want to pick between these two teams, especially because, you know, as much as I love Rocket League and I love all the pro teams, consistency is still the thing that everyone's striving to get. And we see so many teams, feels like they're going to do well, and then they crush our hearts, and then I cry a lot. And
Are you talking about flip side?
I'm talking about a lot of teams, but they're one. They're definitely one that has hurt me too many times.
Oh man, but it is a best of 7 single elimination bracket here. We can take a look at the bracket as it will stand for Europe. 2 teams are in. Northern Gaming and Leftovers have already qualified for the World Championships, but Gale Force, Mocket, Flipside Tactics, and Resonance are playing to get in, and then those 4 teams will be playing for auto qualification for Season 4.
Yeah, again, Flipside versus Resonant, that was a Week 5 matchup, Gale Force versus Mocket. Then also that big storyline of the Leftovers making it in, grabbing that number 2 spot.
Even if you haven't watched all season and you look at this bracket and you see a team called the Leftovers, qualified for LAN, already in one of the top seeds, you already know the story. You already can tell what's going on, and you know that this is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. The prize pool these guys playing for $10,000 for first place and $6,500 for second place. But the money, as we said in the last segment, kind of almost secondary to the fact that winning this qualifies you for Season 4, extending your Rocket League career, guaranteeing that. And this is the first season they've been able to do that.
Yeah, this is the first time we're implementing that auto qualification aspect. And so again, we talked about it in the last segment, but maybe you're just tuning in. This first round of the EU and NA Regional Championship, the first round of the championship, if you win, then you have locked up top 4 in your region, and you're guaranteed to go to the World Championship that's going to be in Los Angeles. If you win the next round and get top 2, then you have guaranteed yourself a spot in Season 4 league play. So you get to avoid that whole qualifier situation, which we know can be devastating to some favorite teams. We all remember what happened to Iris this season, and then Selfless the previous season in North America. So locking up a bid into league play in the next season is huge.
Yeah, so many teams talk about that the qualifiers are actually the part of Rocket League, of RLCS, that they fear the most. Yeah. Because if you mess up there, you're done. You don't get to play the whole season.
They won both of they beat Atelier and they beat Iris. So set to destroy. They went 0-7 in league play, but on the qualifier day, they played quite well. Probably because they had not as much to fear as the other guys.
It's definitely like, it's a proving grounds. I mean, qualifiers like, hey, everybody in the world's going to play. Good luck.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, all it takes is like one bad day, one off day. You have to show up at your prime. And that's why I think players fear it the most, is because in league play, if you make a mistake week 2 or you have an off week, you're like, hey, it's cool. We're gonna show up week 3, 4, and 5, and we're gonna dominate, and we're gonna make top 2.
Mocket,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. That team that might have struggled, or Genesis, right? Like they struggled a bit in the beginning, and they proved their worth towards the end. But in qualifiers, you don't get that.
Yeah.
Yep. So being able to skip the qualifiers would be just such a breath of relief for all of these teams. So we will see who's able to make it, but they got to qualify for the LAN first. And we'll talk about this first matchup: Gale Force versus Mocket. 2 teams we've been following closely all season. And one of these teams will be going home. One of these teams will qualify for LA.
Violent Panda has had an amazing season. Really, when we were talking about MVPs in Europe, his name was in the conversation. He getting a lot of assists, a lot of goals, just contributing quite a bit to his team's success. And again, you saw him scoring that, or I think he scored that overtime goal. I didn't catch it, but overall, this was a week 1 matchup, 3-1 victory for, at the time, Pocket Aces, now Gale Force. They manhandled Mocket.
And Mocket, again, we talked about it a little bit prior. Gibbs really, he spoke well of Mocket. He thought going into this, they were it. They were the team that was just going to dominate, and they really haven't. Now, what that does mean to me is that they have the potential, they have the skill. They just had a little bit of a rough patch for about a month and a half.
Yeah, and
which is long.
I think, the one game that that Mocket won was Wasteland, I believe. It's not, I think the only, and that was also a Gale Force pick.
Yep.
So they lost the one pick that they made pretty severely, 4-1 there. But overall, Gale Force played much better than Mocket in this series. K-Dop was the saving grace on Mocket. He scored 4 out of the 6 goals for Mocket, and he is a great player. But really, if Mocket hopes to stand a chance here, in my opinion, in this first round matchup, then they really need Fairy Peak to step up. They need to have that Mocket-Fairy Peak connection. Mystic has always been pretty good, at least this season, just being a contributor to the offense from the assist point of view and just playing solid defense. But Fairy Peak has had just games where he's been so quiet.
Now, much like the stories we talked about in North America, these teams, Gale Force started off very, very hot. They were the longest streak of undefeated teams in Europe. They're the last team to actually lose a match, where Mocket started off rough, but in the final week, Mocket goes 2-0, and Gale Force goes 0-2. Mocket being one of the only teams to get a win off the leftovers there. It took them 5 games, but they did manage to get it. So as we look into this playoff matchup, who's hot? Who's moving forward here?
It is a tough one. It is a tough one. But we're talking about Violent Panda and Pashy. They're under a new banner, being on Gale Force this season, playing under that sponsor. They have Chaussette now instead of Devo, but they finished second in the World Championship last season. I still think they're the team to beat in this matchup. I'm going to give it to Gale Force over Mocket in this one. I think this is where Mocket's season ends.
Well, I definitely agree with you. K-Dop, MVP, right? The guy is a god. He's really good at what he does, and he's got a team to follow suit. But, I've mentioned it a billion times, and I'm sure everybody hates me at this point, but if you can't show me consistency throughout all of league play, it's going to be hard for me to think, wow, they're going to be able to pull it off. And even if in the last week you can swap it, if we've seen anything, getting a week off really changes everything. Even midseason mayhem, everything changes after midseason mayhem. That's when we see teams fall off or turn on, because they get that week off to relax. They don't have that recent. It hasn't been 7 days since they got beat last.
Are you going to pick Mocket?
No, I'm picking Gale Force.
Okay. You're picking Gale Force. But one thing I will just say, just playing devil's advocate here, we've heard people talking. Shogun's talked a lot about how Gale Force is a team that struggles with the nerves when they're in a situation where everything's on the line. Some of their players can really, really struggle, and everything's on the line here. This is the situation. If there was a match that I could see Gale Force dropping to Mocket, this is it. Again, though, I'm not going to be surprised in either direction of how that match goes. Moving on to the other match, Flipside versus Resonant. This is a super interesting story to me.
Yes.
The last match of league play was Flipside versus Resonant, where Resonant won in 5 games. Could we see a situation here where Flipside doesn't even make it to LAN?
Resonant won to a Flipside that I'd never seen before.
Yes.
It was a very bad Flipside. I've never seen Cooksier miss anything.
He had that wide open net miss.
And he missed 7 things.
And Markey also played dismally. He was in the race to finish as the Golden Striker, him and Cooks, and he did almost nothing in this series. Greasy scored 6 out of the 10 goals, Cooks scoring the other 3. Markey had a very bad series. But like you were saying, for Flipside, they didn't have much to play for. They definitely wanted to beat Resonant, because Resonant is one of the teams that came into this season as a top 3 team. People forget about that. They forget that Resonant was considered that good. And this one going all the way to Game 5. But really, Flipside, they had just lost to Northern Gaming. Had they beat Northern Gaming in the previous series, they would have finished in a top 2 spot and would have had that World Championship bid locked up. So like you were saying, Wade, this one is a really interesting series to watch, because it was the last series played and Flipside lost and looked bad. Well,
and we've talked kind of all season that it's been Greasy Meister, the newest member of the Flipside roster, has been the player we're waiting for him to step up. We're waiting to see how he plays and how can he play at the level that Markey and Cooks are playing. And here you can see that 6 goals from Greasy Meister. He did everything he could to try and get them the win here, and it still was not quite enough. It was Cookser and Markey, the 2 most consistent players maybe in all of Rocket League, who fell apart in this week. And who do you guys think Resonant will be able to do it 2 times in a row?
Well, if there's anything I've learned about Flipside, it's don't count them out. When we talk about consistency, they are pretty darn consistent. Getting 2nd place in the first World Championship, getting 1st in Season 2. I think and it's all on the line for them too. That's when they perform their best, because in both of the World Championships, they got knocked into the lower bracket very early on. So coming into this series with everything on the line, I think Flipside is going to step up, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this really going in a big landslide to Flipside, like a 3-0 shutout type situation.
Now, I think Flipside just hasn't admitted they only do well under pressure, so they deliberately put themselves in the worst positions. Every LAN, let's just get in the lower.
Let's lose quick.
Let's lose immediately. We'll get in the lower bracket right away, and then we'll have pressure on us every game, and then we'll make it to the finals.
And then Cooks looks like he's about to pass out every single series.
And then season 2, they're like, it worked. Let's do it again. We were so close, we came in second. So then they do it again, and it works for them. In unfathomable fashion, they were able to pull it off in season 2.
Going up against the team that beat them, both world championships.
Oh, God. So I think, honestly, they're a team that does well the moment they need to. They usually do well when they're not. The only fear of me picking Flipside, I'm going to pick them, but my only fear is that I've never seen them perform that bad. I don't know what's wrong.
Scary. I feel like I have to pick Flipside just because of the lore of Rocket League. I can't pick against Flipside when they're going up against Resident eSports. I've only seen this team in one league play. It's this one here. But the last time we saw Flipside on this stage, they got beaten by this exact team, and that makes it just so I don't know what's going to happen. I have to pick Flipside, but it's the most uncomfortable I've ever been picking Flipside.
That was the worst we ever seen them play.
Yeah. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off. Now, looking forward to, we've picked Gale Force to be winning the first round, and they will go up against Northern Gaming. So, Northern Gaming and Leftovers are already in. How do you feel like this is going to be going if we see Gale Force versus Northern Gaming?
So this is another interesting matchup because Northern picked up Devo. Devo used to be the teammate of Pashy and Violent Panda, and it's kind of funny because Northern came in third both world championships, and for some reason Devo, even after finishing second with Pashy and Violent Panda, still decided to jump ship over to Northern Gaming. I think he recognizes what is also my opinion, that Remco and Maestro are out of this world good. They're just step above the rest.
Well, last time we saw these two teams play, the last time we saw Northern Gaming play, last time we saw Gale Force play was against each other, 3-1 in favor of Northern Gaming there in week 5. So do you think Northern Gaming can continue that, or is Gale Force going to be able to bounce back?
Well, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen because I've heard some rumors that Maestro actually might not be able to attend the World Championship, and they might have to use Turbo Pulsa, their sub, instead. So if that is the case,
with the World Championship or the regional championships,
for both. So that's
a huge game changer.
That could. So it's been rumors. It's been rumors. So we'll see if that is the case. If that is the case, I'm definitely going to give that to Gale Force. But if Maestro does end up playing, which I am praying and hoping for, then I think it's going to be Northern.
I think Northern, just in general, Remco and Maestro have been playing together since the beginning. But there's one thing I know about Pashy, he loves to win. He guns it for the top. He's the kind of guy that I come in second, all right, I just came in first last. He's like, I just came in last place, I'm just the best of the last place players, which I think is a good drive for him, which is why he still is here, still competing. Him and Violent Panda have kind of become another pair to look at, another pair to keep an eye out for. You know, through 2 seasons, they've been working really well. But I genuinely think that in general, Northern Gaming being as strong as they've been, they're going to take that down, and they're going to move on.
Now, moving over to the other side of the bracket, we thought we're picking Flipside. It's the most uncomfortable we've ever been picking Flipside here, but they're going up against the Leftovers, assuming they get the win over Resonant. The most memorable series of league play, at least in my mind, was the reverse sweep of the Leftovers over Flipside. Do they get their revenge on the Leftovers if that happens?
The Leftovers rode that wave of week 1 all the way to today. Getting that win versus Northern and Flipside was so key. And then obviously that Gale Force win, no one thought the Leftovers were gonna be in this situation. Where does their story end? That's the question. If they win now with so much on the line, if they win, get top 2, we'll see them again in season 4. But I don't know. I think they have been. I love those players. I think they certainly deserve to be here. But I think they have been overperforming. Like, Snasky himself said it. When coming into the league, who did they think they were going to beat? Cownos and Penta. And I think they lost.
They hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over everybody right now. These guys are crazy. So okay, so we've talked about all the matches. We've talked about some potential matches that might not happen. Quickly before we go to break, who wins? This is so much harder than North America. Who is the European regional champion?
Man, I think if Maestro plays, it's going to be Northern Gaming. If not, I think it's Flipside.
Okay, I want to take it and give it to Leftovers only because in the interview, when Snasky was talking about, like, you know, we're down 2-0 against Flipside, and we're in comms, we're like, hey, let's reverse sweep Flipside. And then we do it.
Right.
And then, like, they did it again.
3 times.
And again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's really easy to underestimate them. But again, when you're talking about consistency, they are right now the most consistent team in Europe.
Yeah.
They're doing fantastically.
They ended the season reverse sweeping Gale Force.
Yeah.
This is how the leftovers like to play.
They cut it too close, man.
Yeah.
They cut it too close.
At the risk of Maestro not being there, I think it will actually be leftovers. It's going to catch everybody off guard, but I'm going to go with leftovers.
Wow.
If
you get that right, then I will get you another wizard hat. Like you'll
I don't
get,
want
and
that.
I'll bejewel it.
Give me a good one.
bejeweled wizard
that
hat.
thing is ugly, dude. Give me a good wizard hat. Dude.
All right.
I hate that thing.
We'll go wizard hat shopping after this. I think it's either Gale Force or leftovers for me. I'll go with leftovers just for the fun of it here. But who knows how it's going to be. That's going to our playoff wrap up, though. Definitely tune in this weekend to find out who our regional champions are for North America and for Europe. We got one more thing coming up, one more exciting announcement here on RLCS Overtime. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. It'll be great. See you in a second.